Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening, everyone. First tonight, a troubling submission from the Nurses Union has heard critical PPE was locked away during the height of the northwest outbreak. Chemists say pharmacy workers also struggled to source protective equipment, now asking authorities to guarantee priority testing for their staff.
In Easter, the Northwest Regional Hospital was in the fight of its life. Despite fears PPE was available, there was just one problem. It was locked up in an office.
At the time, staff not being able to access PPE readily caused further stress and de-stress to our members.
The Nurses Union has told an inquiry into the deadly outbreak there was insufficient training on how to use PPE. Communication was also poor, with some staff discovering through the media if colleagues had tested COVID positive. A submission from the Chemists Guild also outlined a PPE struggle. They were also worried over panic buying of drugs. They're asking authorities to formally approve pharmacy workers for priority testing.
We need our staff to help us deal with those customers at that time, so it's essential we don't get caught with people who are at home waiting on test results.
The ANMF says many issues from the outbreak have been resolved, but some have not. More staff are needed in infection control, and broader concerns linger over aged care.
Particularly with regard to sufficient staffing of aged care facilities.
There are ongoing works underway to ensure that every possible box that can be ticked is being checked.
The inquiry's final report is expected to be handed down next month. Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
Well, to tell us more about what the figures mean for us here in Tasmania, we're joined now by our reporter Garth Burley. Good evening, Garth. What has the impact been here?
Good evening, Kim. Well, like most of the country, we haven't escaped the economic fallout of this virus, and the figures aren't pretty. Tasmania is one of the worst hit states, with one of the key economic measures, state final demand, falling by 7.4%, the second worst result in the nation. Household spending also plunged by more than 12%. Now, that is largely due to border closures, which, as we all saw, had severe impacts. We saw a 63% decrease in spending at hotels, cafes and restaurants, and a 70% fall in transport spending. We spoke to the Chamber of Commerce as well as the government, who are putting on a brave face over the alarming figures, now looking to the future.
The early indications is that our state is recovering quicker and more strongly than any of the other states. Our business confidence is already returned to the highest in the country.
What we really need to look at now is how we move ourselves out of what is an incredibly solid recession and back into the positive, which we'll need to be looking at over the next few years. And that will come back to government looking at the fundamentals to really try and sort those through to build us back out of this problem.
So, Kim, we still have a long way to go if Tasmania is ever fully going to recover from this devastating pandemic.
Well, to tell us more about what the figures mean for us here in Tasmania, we're joined now by our reporter Garth Burley. Good evening, Garth. What has the impact been here?
Good evening, Kim. Well, like most of the country, we haven't escaped the economic fallout of this virus, and the figures aren't pretty. Tasmania is one of the worst hit states, with one of the key economic measures, state final demand, falling by 7.4%, the second worst result in the nation. Household spending also plunged by more than 12%. Now, that is largely due to border closures, which, as we all saw, had severe impacts. We saw a 63% decrease in spending at hotels, cafes and restaurants, and a 70% fall in transport spending. We spoke to the Chamber of Commerce as well as the government, who are putting on a brave face over the alarming figures, now looking to the future.
The early indications is that our state is recovering quicker and more strongly than any of the other states. Our business confidence is already returned to the highest in the country.
What we really need to look at now is how we move ourselves out of what is an incredibly solid recession and back into the positive, which we'll need to be looking at over the next few years. And that will come back to government looking at the fundamentals to really try and sort those through to build us back out of this problem.
So, Kim, we still have a long way to go if Tasmania is ever fully going to recover from this devastating pandemic.
A new homegrown agriculture program is encouraging farmers to transition into organic markets. The government eyeing off new international markets as deals with a major trade partner remain uncertain.
Within Tasmania's huge agricultural sector, this is a market relatively untapped.
The organics industry is quite small within Tasmania. We'd like to see that expand and grow.
Only 170 producers have organic certification. Demand, on the other hand, is booming.
It's growing and it's growing rapidly, and we're experiencing that and have experienced it over the last few years as well.
The state committing $230,000 over the next 3 years to educate farmers about an organic shift.
We're not huge fans of chemicals at all. As you know, with organics you can't use any.
All part of an ambitious bid to grow the entire industry to $10 billion by 2050, something the government knows will be difficult if we lose one of our biggest overseas trading partners.
We accept and absolutely acknowledge the importance of China.
30% of Tasmania's export market travels to China, and as tensions bubble between Canberra and Beijing, locally the industry holds its breath.
We want to ensure that that is maintained.
But the move into the organic space hopes to diversify the global reach.
Growth in Tasmanian market, growth in the mainland market and growth in the export market.
Garth Burley, 7 Tasmania News.
Members of the bomb response group have swarmed on a Bridgewater property after a device was located inside a shipping container. Police were called to the scene on Old Main Road this morning. Crews quickly determined the item didn't contain any explosive material but evacuated nearby properties and used a robot to continue searching the container as a precaution. Authorities used the opportunity to remind Tasmanians of the state's permanent firearms amnesty, which allows people with unregistered or unwanted firearms, ammunition or explosives to hand them in without fear of prosecution. 2 coroners have recommended all Tasmanians buying chainsaws undertake specialised training after handing down findings into 2 separate deaths today. Colin George Williamson died in a tree-felling accident on a property at Forthside in January 2018. In a separate case, Roland Michael Chilton Howe died in April 2019 at Unamara, also after tree felling. Coroners Simon Cooper and Olivia McTaggart both repeated calls for change, recommending all chainsaw operators undergo regular practical assessments. With coronavirus already changing the way we holiday, Tasmania's tourism industry is looking to the future. Operators are being encouraged to prepare for more people hitting the road in their cars, caravans and motorhomes to travel across the state.
With the cut of a ribbon, Tasmania's newest accommodation facility open for business. A small crowd on hand to see the first caravan drive into a new RV park at New Norfolk's historic Glenderwent estate. Hosting up to 20 vehicles, the 5-hectare site catering to those looking to explore the state at their own pace.
And they'll tour Hobart. We've had people stay here and go to Mount Field and up the rest of the valley and in fact, we had some stay here, just went all around Tasmania.
A major investment in a time of great uncertainty. The coronavirus crisis rapidly changing how people travel when on holiday. And industry leaders say investments like this park are the way of the future.
Self-drive touring is going to be a stronger proposition post-COVID. People are going to be wanting to be within their own control and in their own cars.
And with capacity on the Spirit of Tasmania set to increase, operators are being urged to get prepared.
There's a lot of Tasmanians that do enjoy travelling with their caravan and travelling with their RV, and at the moment they're here, they're in Tasmania.
Local residents already leading the way by venturing into their backyard.
With about a 40% increase in capacity. And we know that that's going to be that the RV community and the caravan community can take full advantage of that.
The Derwent Valley Council heeding the message, with other developments in the pipeline.
There's an investment in a new motel coming forward shortly as well, and there's a DA coming forward for that soon.
Another step forward on Tasmania's road to recovery. John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
Ross Arden has claimed the prestigious title of having Tasmania's best tasting tap water. The northeast town has officially been crowned the winner, beating 18 other sites across the state. The region's water source was credited for its win.
It's virtually what's running off the back of Ben Lomond, so it's pristine, it's actually crystal clear, it's a magic little spot.
It will now represent the state at the National Awards later this month. A number of dangerous Tasmanian road corridors are set to be fixed. The state government partnering with local councils to fund 19 projects across the state. Worth more than $1 million, the initiative will target crash hotspots which pose risks to pedestrians and cyclists.
These projects mitigate the damage that might occur if you do make a mistake.
Improved infrastructure for motor vehicles, for pedestrians and cyclists is very important.
It comes after 3 motorists lost their lives last weekend in what has been a horror few weeks on our roads. Operators have deemed a trial of the Safe Night Space Shelter program a success, already making a significant difference to Tasmania's homeless community. A report into the program's first 6 months found while the housing situation is worsening, 70% of clients say the shelter is the safest place to spend the night. During the study, the program provided more than 1,600 bed nights for 157 people who would otherwise be sleeping rough in Hobart.
The reality is the rough sleeping cohort won't go away. Some of the people we're working with, it's going to take quite a while for them to actually engage with services.
And we've benefited from having access to GPs, to just the general medical health that people need.
The report recommends the program be extended to 24 hours a day.
North Hobart's Jay Charlton will return to play his 150th for the Demons this weekend. After a super start to the year, the D's are now fighting to stay in the top 5. North Hobart doubled Lauderdale's score the first time they met this season. On the weekend, that flipped the other way. But with forward Julian DeBoz easing back into TSL footy and Jay Charlton returning for a milestone match, there's renewed optimism.
It'll be his 150th game, so no bigger milestone for the boys to try and get up.
While the D's Bailey Walker will miss this week and possibly the game after as well, after this strike which saw Sam Burge rubbed out for 2 games.
He's had some really good games this year, so we hope to see him back, if not against the Tigers, but definitely after the bye.
The crowd cap will be lifted to 1,250 people for the game. North Launceston fans plan to travel down the highway.
You know, we're the showpiece this week, so hopefully all goes well and smooth sailing, and we can hopefully replicate that in the back end of the year by, hopefully we can get that crowd at our next home game.
Cavaliers is still yet to topple Northern Hawks this year after a 22-point loss on the weekend. The side called up 17-year-old goalkeeper Monique Duffy for her Opens debut, and she hopes to stay there.
Cavs didn't have a bad game. Hawks just played a really, really good game, really strong in attack and really strong in defence. So I think the focus for us is just to put through 4 consecutive strong quarters in future.
After playing the top team, Cavs' next opponent is the winless Devon. And Aussie Test captain Tim Payne says the word around paceman Riley Meredith from England is good.
Hopefully he gets a game in the next couple of weeks. I've heard some pretty positive reports out of England about him, and I think he's very close to making his debut, but we'll have to wait and see the next couple of nights.
Payne is pushing for November's test against Afghanistan to be played at Blunston Arena.
I think any crowd noise and energy that a crowd can create adds to the spectacle, whether you're here or whether you're watching on telly.
The Launceston Tornadoes have gone through the peculiar process of re-signing head coach Sarah Veal, even though she's yet to coach a game. The Torns' focus today wasn't just what's happening on the court, but having access to courts in the first place. Far from a baptism of fire, Sarah Veal's induction to coaching has been more like a slow burn.
We had a bit of a catchphrase which was stay apart, stick together, and we really focused on that stick together.
Part of the fated 95 championship team, Veal is determined to see a second Torn side achieve the ultimate glory. Today's team has an advantage over the Victorians by being able to train freely, but issues remain over limited access to courts.
We're down here at 6 a.m. in the morning when it's -1 or 2 in here trying to just get time on the court, so there is no court availability after school for the girls or after work.
The club wants basketball to be in the picture if any plans are made for more Aussie rules infrastructure.
Why don't we combine other sports with that as well, so that we have a centre of excellence which covers all sorts of sports, whether it be football, netball, basketball?
obviously.
The Tawns
so
have
it's
retained imports Keely Frolling and Megan McKay from the WNBL and local Ellie Collins. As for Veal, she says not to expect the same animated swagger of her predecessor Derek Washington when she finally has her time to shine.
Is that your style too?
No. No.
Richie Porte has passed his first serious test at the Tour de France. The first mountaintop finish of this year's race was a nightmare for Belgian Tish Benoot, who took a heavy tumble. But Porte was untroubled. The Aussie star crossed the line shortly after stage winner Primoz Roglic.
The last kilometre really hurt, but nice to get through it, and it's finally nice to get some good weather.
Frenchman Julian Alaphilippe retained the overall lead. Porte is 17 seconds back in 16th. And respected Tasmanian sailor Peter Campbell has died aged 89. The long-serving commentator had a close connection with the Sydney-Hobart yacht race, first writing about the event in 1946. He was a media manager for the race in the 90s and 2000s. Mr Campbell also reported on Australia's America's Cup victory in 1983 and the Sydney Olympics. Past Commodore of the Royal Yacht Club of Tasmania, Biddy Badenek says he was a true gentleman, an outstanding reporter and highly respected by his peers.
Good evening. Temperatures crept above average today, with Launceston, Flinders Island and Grove scoring our high of 18. Hobart 16 today, Burnie 13, Devonport 15 degrees. Strawn, Friendly Beaches and St Helens all on 17. King Island and Ouse 16. Low Head just 13 today and Lyawini 8 degrees. A few showers over the west, 3 millimetres the highest reading to 3 p.m. at Strawn, as the cloud moved over from a low pressure system. That system is well south of the Bight, affecting South Australia, Victoria and coastal New South Wales. Conditions mostly clear elsewhere, while we do have another cold pool of air over southern WA. Tomorrow, several troughs approach and cross Tasmania, followed by a strong westerly airstream. High pressure ridges split by a trough over the mainland. North to northwesterly winds increasing to 20 to 30 knots during the day before tending westerly later. Swells to 4 metres. A gale warning's on for waters between Sandy Cape and Stanley, a strong wind warning for remaining coastal waters along with the central plateau lakes. The forecast for Hobart, a light shower or two developing, 17 the high, same for Cygnet, New Norfolk a shower or two and 17 to complete the trifecta. 15 for Launceston and showery, Devonport 14, Campbelltown 14 with showers developing. 14 for Burnie with showers on the way, getting windy as well. Strawn 15 and Smithton 14 degrees with a little bit of wet weather. And the showers getting to the east as well. St Helens and Swansea 17, Fingal a high of 15. On Friday, showers across most regions, leaving the central east fairly dry though. Partly cloudy over the southeast on Saturday with a shower or two elsewhere. Mainly fine with sunny breaks on Sunday. Maybe you can all mow the lawn for Dad. Cloudy weather for Perth tomorrow, a shower clearing from Adelaide but developing over Melbourne. Partly cloudy in Canberra and Brisbane, sunny conditions for Sydney and Darwin. It's partly cloudy in Hobart, currently 15 degrees though, showery over Launceston, 12 at the moment and currently 11 in Devonport. Kim, that's it from here.
That's all your news for now. I'll be back later with some updates. Thanks for joining us. Good night.